let's take well, we've been looking at Mary and Joseph. Let's look again at Mary through the eyes or the lens of Luke, uh, good Dr. Luke, historian, researcher. Um, he records in what we have as the first chapter of Luke the visitation of Gabriel to Mary to announce to her that she will become pregnant, but not by a man, by the Holy Spirit, and will give birth to a son. We talked a bit about what that would mean for her in terms of her, the society around her was not good. From the perspective of how would that have been viewed by her community? Very bad. I mean, horrible. She was not in the dark about that. She knew, and I'm convinced she would have known full well the implications of this for her personally. In Luke chapter 1, verse 35, the angel answered, "The Holy Spirit will come on you, and the power of the Most High will overshadow you. So the Holy One to be born will be called the Son of God. Even Elizabeth, your relative, is going to have a child in her old age, and she who was said to be unable to conceive is in her 6th month. For no word from God will ever fail." That's a very significant sentence. No word from God will ever fail. Pardon me for making a bunny trail here, but there are times I have had it happen to me. You've probably had it happen to you. I see it, I read it, where people, they claim that they have a word from God. And maybe they do. But I will say, I've had experiences where I don't think that was from God. I don't think that was a word directly from God. I think it was something else. And I'm not even saying it was malicious on the part of the person who claimed to be speaking God's words. Mary could be assured this was a word from God because it came from the archangel, or not the archangel, the angel Gabriel. Michael was the archangel, but Gabriel apparently is the head messenger angel. Anyway, what I think what Gabriel is, the point he's making is, hey, when God says it, it's a done deal. And now consider Mary, 14, 15, I'm thinking at the oldest 16. She gets this word about a pregnancy that will radically change her life. First of all, she's going to be a mother. She's a girl. The old thing, babies having babies, and that's a radical change. In her culture, she would have been around girls, women who were given in marriage as a young girl and then became pregnant. So it's not like she would have no idea what to do. I think, culturally she would have been around this. So but it'd be a huge change. Secondly, although she was betrothed to Joseph, and that was a covenant relationship that could only be broken through divorce, that's a big change. Because now she would move from her parents' home into Joseph's home. Second big change. Biggest change of all? No, maybe not the biggest, but one of the biggest changes of all. She would have been perceived by her community as a bad girl because, well, no, wait. Here's what it's more likely to have been. Joseph did not make it public that he did not sire this baby. So then the kind of the what I think would have been the community's perception would have been, I think, oh, so you guys couldn't wait, huh? Kind of got things out of order here. Although in that setting, it wouldn't have been taken as lightly as it is today in our culture. Lots of changes and overwhelming changes. But listen to what Mary said after Gabriel had delivered the message. I am the Lord's servant, Mary answered. May your word to me be fulfilled. Then the angel left her. Wow. Consider the faith of this young woman, this girl, this adolescent. Although adolescence was not a term or a line of thought in her day, but for us, when we look at her, this is not a mature woman. This is a teenager. But her faith apparently was quite mature. And in my opinion, this is one of the reasons that she, according to Gabriel, was highly favored by God. I look at this, I'm the Lord's servant. May your word to me be fulfilled. I look at that as perhaps one of the most faith-filled statements in all of the Bible. And can't say I don't want to envy, because that's not a good thing. And yet I do envy her. I envy her faith. I'm challenged by the degree of confidence that she had in God. That confidence came, I think, from two things. First of all, I think she had an understanding of the goodness of God, his faithfulness, his righteousness, his holiness. And secondly, this may sound weird to you, but I think she understood, she was committed to her own faithfulness. It's not like all of a sudden Mary decides, oh, I'm going to quit living the way I've been living. I'm going to live for God. No. I mean, this statement, well, in my opinion, it was consistent with the way she lived her life as a servant of God. Okay, big question. Let's look in the mirror. When I look in the mirror, in terms of how this example of Mary is so challenging to me, I look at myself, and emotionally, I want to be a servant of God. Except one of the things that holds me back, and I don't know whether it does you, I'm pretty sure it probably does, is I want to be the Lord's servant and get what I want. Can you see the problem with that? I'm the Lord's servant. Now please pass potatoes. Like, I want what I want and still be a servant of God. And here's the problem. You can't serve two masters. You got to have one and only one. When I was a kid, the word picture that I heard, and it stayed with me, is who is on the throne of your heart? Who is the king of you? Well, for most people, it's them. For me, I am daily trying to get off the throne and let Jesus have his rightful spot as king and ruler of my life. Evidently, Mary had already crossed that bridge. So the challenge for us that I see in Mary is this: how do I find the sincere, genuine, unadulterated faith that I see in Mary? And to be honest with you, I don't have a really good, quick answer. Because I don't think this was like I said, she didn't flip a switch and have that faith. This was consistent, I believe, with the way she had been living her life, with how she had chosen to arrange her life around God's design. Can I do that? Can you do that? We have to go back now. We don't have to, but we're going to go back to Matthew chapter 1 to the dream that Joseph had and how he was spoken to. I think it was the angel Gabriel. And this is in Matthew chapter 1, verse 20. We talked about this, but let's replow a little ground. But after he had considered this, the idea of having her quietly divorced to protect her from public ridicule and disgrace, an angel of the Lord appeared to him in a dream and said, "Joseph, son of David, do not be afraid to take Mary home as your wife, because what is conceived in her is from the Holy Spirit. She will give birth to a son, and you are to give him the name Jesus, because he will save his people from their sins." That is not a thorough explanation, but it gave a compelling message to Joseph. Verse 22. This is for us, okay? All this took place to fulfill what the Lord had said through the prophet. The virgin will conceive and give birth to a son, and they will call him Emmanuel, which means God with us. Prophet Isaiah. Isaiah had made gobs of prophecies about the coming of Jesus, the Messiah. And then here's more insight into Joseph. When Joseph woke up, he did what the angel of the Lord commanded him and took Mary home as his wife. But he did not consummate their marriage until she gave birth to a son. And he gave him the name Jesus. When I was a kid, we had the King James Version, and it said, "He knew her not." And I always thought, Joseph must have been a kind of a goober. I mean, he didn't know her. Of course, that's not what that phrase means. It means he had no sexual relations with her. There is a compelling aspect to Joseph's faith, the example of his strong faith. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that next time when we get together on So Care with Stevie Boy.